Hello, hello, hello. All right. So we're starting day six. And if you are on the replay, let me know. All right. So I can send you a bit of love. So I see people are coming on now. That's great. Hey, Rose. Good to see you. Hey, Carol. Are you saying your morning has been great? Morning is Groot. Not sure what you mean by that. Just to let you guys know, I'm going to actually start the content around 5 minutes in because I'm getting feedback that some people are having trouble finding the notifications. It takes them a while to get on for whatever reason. So, and if you're watching the replay, then just grab yourself a drink, relax, get into whatever listening position you want to be in. Okay, and then come on back when it is in about 5 minutes. All right. Hey, Neil, good to see you. Good. You were notified. Ah, terrific. Terrific. How many of you got notifications? I'm not sure they work so well, but maybe they do. I don't know. Because I get a different notification than you guys do. So, we're at day six, and while we're here, and I know all you guys, and I'm so happy that you're here. Oh, good. Thank you, Rose. Um, give me a little feedback. How is this? How are these broadcasts helping you at all? I mean, give me some. Um, and you know what? If you have constructive criticism for me too, that's fine. I will take anything. Got a couple more minutes before we'll start. I know that maybe this is really selfish, but hey, Amanda, it's good to see you. But I am enjoying these immensely. I tried to make it as simple as possible to come on. Not a lot of fanfare, not a lot of. The reminders. I send out the reminders, and they're a little bit of work, but not too bad. Not too bad. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it as I'm seeking the Lord in the morning and going through yesterday's. I've kind of got into this little bit of a routine. And I'm probably going to miss this when it's done because it's really shifting my perspective and taking me to an even higher place, an even more expanded place. I hope that's happening for you too. Neil says, somehow I'm finding that I can carry this with me throughout my day more than the previous ones. I don't know if that reflects a difference in your broadcast or my absorption. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. I do think that, it's been a few years. Well, actually, it's been a year since I was doing broadcasts, a few years since I was doing them, on a daily basis. And, the past couple years, a lot has happened. A lot has happened. I've had to deepen my faith in ways that I might not have had to if what had happened, what's been happening, hadn't happened. You know, challenges do that. Challenges do that. We can either turn away from God and say, you know what? He's not working for me. I've been there. I've done that. He's not working for me. Whatever I think I'm supposed to have, I'm not having. I don't know what to do. Or I can press in and say, all right, where does my faith need to expand? Where do I need to step into that place of promise? Where do I need to trust more? Right? Because every time I do, I receive more abundance. I receive more clarity. I receive more of my heart's desires. Yeah. Hey, Dee, good to see you. And Amanda, you got to get your blanket. Okay. Get cozy, girl. Mm-hmm. This is a cozy place. A couple of days ago, some of you saw that I was in my PJs. Yep. Oh, it's 5 minutes in. All right. We're going to get started. So we started off by talking about receiving. And I want to get back to that just for a minute, just to get the context here. Why is receiving so important? Why is it important for us to learn how to be receivers? And that's not a hard thing. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But then what are some of the hindrances to receiving? All right. And then how do we transform our thoughts and our beliefs that may hinder us? It's not the world out there that's hindering us. It's what we believe that's hindering us. All right. And we'll talk more about that. Hey, Kim, it's good to see you. So, receiving, to recap, is important because it is the key to unlocking your abundance. Receiving is the key to unlocking your abundance and the promises of God. And all the promises of God are yes and amen. You have got promises that God has made to you that are in being held and they're available to you, and you don't have to earn them. You don't have to be good enough for them. God already considers you good enough. That's part of what this is about, right? The hindrance could be that you think you have to be good enough to get the promises of God, but that's a lie. We'll talk more about that. Receiving is setting us up to reign in life as kings and queens. In this life, it's setting us up, receiving. We have to receive the abundance of grace and favor, the free gift of righteousness, that free gift of approval. All right, those are gifts. We don't earn them, but we have to receive them. We have to take them and say, okay, that's for me. That's for me. Yes, I'm not going to resist it. I'm not going to resist it. Okay. So receiving is another, when we receive, the Bible says that our joy, so our joy may be full. So our joy may be complete. So receiving leads to joy. Receiving leads to joy. Receiving the love of people, like when we have, like you extend love to me, I extend love to you, it's great. Your coworkers might extend love to you, your spouse, your partner may extend love to you, that's great. But I'm telling you, people are fickle. Their love goes up and down. Oftentimes it's conditional. So we really got to get good at receiving God's love, which is amazing and magnificent. And it makes us, when we see God's love, we feel so good. We feel so good. We feel so well cared for, right? But love is an action word. You've heard that. God's love carries blessings. It carries blessings. It carries abundance. It carries favor. It carries peace. It carries strength. It carries creativity. Bundled up in God's love is all this stuff that you get access to without condition. Okay? All you got to need is wanting it. All you got to need is putting yourself in a position that says, I'm here to receive. Okay? You don't have to go and earn it. You have to do a thing for it. You just have to accept. And that's what the receiving is. Accept that it's already yours and you qualify. And talking about that feeling that says, I'm not good enough, right? This hovering, shadowy thing that just makes us walk around day to day feeling not good enough. You lost the sound. Can you hear me now? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay. All right, good. It was also connected to my phone, and the phone went off, and so it blanked you out. Okay, gotcha. Cool. All right, so something I want to cover again today that we didn't really take too much time with yesterday, but it's very important, and it is this idea of badgering ourselves. I'm going to go back to Diana's message. She said, "How is it that I've made it to 62 years old and have had all kinds of truth to combat these feelings of unworthiness and shame, yet still have this underlying verbal abuse toward myself?" Anybody resonate with that? Okay. This badgering verbal abuse. And I'm going to tell you why we do this. It's very simple. It's a very simple reason. Because most of us have been taught, and we actually pass this on, most of us have been taught that scolding and ranting is the way to being better. Scolding and ranting is the way to be better. Think about your parents, right? Scolding and ranting is the way to being better. So if I don't scold myself, and that's what that verbal abuse is, it's the scolding, right? It's the shaking of the finger, it's the scowling face, it's the what's wrong with you. If I don't do that, then I run the risk of continuing to be who I am, make the mistakes, and et cetera, et cetera. We think somehow that the scolding is our guard. It's the guard, all right? And if I let myself off the hook, I'm just going to keep repeating this bad behavior, right? Neil says, verbal abuse towards myself always comes in my dad's voice. So therein lies the issue, right? It's a hard thing to turn off, but we have to practice that. Kim says, hearing I don't need to earn and just receive is hard for me to accept. I spent my whole life trying to earn. Yeah. And I don't know about you, Kim, but my Asian mom was very good at criticizing and pushing and shaking the finger and punishing, all because she loved us. All right, so love can have a mixed message here, all because she loved us, and that was what she thought needed to happen in order for us to be better people, in order for us to succeed. There's a bit of her own frustration thrown in there, okay? Yeah, we all do that. All right. But when we get older and we still live with that constantly, we get exhausted after a while. That's exhausting. Trying to satisfy that voice is exhausting. Amanda says scolding in the name of love, but that's not love. No, it isn't. It isn't. They may love us. They may love us. We don't blame them because they may love us. And that may be the only thing they know, right? So we do have to let them off the hook. We do have to forgive them. But on the other hand, we cannot carry that around within us. And sometimes we might need to separate ourselves a little bit from the source of that until we get solidified in our own being, right? So that it's just God's love-based voice we hear rather than that shame-based culture, like Kim is saying. It is a shame-based culture. That's the truth. We do live in that reality. So how do we function in love, in security, not insecurity, but in security when that is surrounding us? I mean, part of communities like this help a lot, right? We don't want to go back into shame. Okay. Now, we have to first get out of it. We have to first recognize it. So, one of the things that next week we're going to actually talk more about guilt. All right. This week we're talking more about shame and how shame hinders us from receiving all that God has for us. Next week we're going to talk a little bit more about guilt, which is a little different. Okay. Guilt has got to go. I'll just say that. Guilt has got to go. The Lord rescued us from that guilty feeling all the time, that fear of guilt. All right, now, one other thing that we pointed out yesterday was that we tend to look at our circumstances, what we don't have in life, what we have instead, as the gauge to whether God is saying yes or no to us. All right, we look at our circumstances. We don't look at what He has actually said and what He has promised. We have to look at that instead. And remember, we often fail to remember that His promises are all yes. God has said yes to good health, yes to financial prosperity, yes to happy and healthy relationships, yes to our wildest dreams and our deepest desires. Look at Ephesians 3:20. Yes to a life of meaning and purpose, and yes to adventure and wonderment. That's why I went skydiving. Adventure and wonderment, challenging ourselves, pushing the envelope sometimes of trust. I love that. And then we talked about 3 steps to transforming feelings of unworthiness or any other lie. Any other lie. I'm going to go up this real quick, and then I want to get into the meat of today's. Excuse me, I've got a frog in my throat. If you need to go back and listen to yesterday's broadcast, please go and do that. Um, one more thing before we go on to these transforming the feelings of unworthiness or any lie. There was a time I want to just mention to you the time that I was healed of migraines. Some of you already know this story, but maybe not in this context. I suffered migraines for many years, and particularly around my from the 48 to 50-year-old time frame. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons why I had migraines. That's another story. But I suffered migraines, and sometimes they were so debilitating I had to go to the hospital, or I was lying in bed for days on end. And it was really affecting. It got to the point where it was really affecting the quality of my life, and I was unable to actually even enjoy life. I was constantly looking for answers. Now, around that time, I was also I knew I needed an overhaul in my thinking. I had come from a church from years past that were of the mind that healing is not for today, that healing, that was a dispensation, that was for a time in the past during New Testament times, but it wasn't for today. So we didn't have an expectation of healing. If it's God's will was the thing. If it's God's will, if it's God's will. Okay. But we didn't know what God's will was. So there was a problem there. Um, So anyway, I had these migraines. Well, I started studying and decided I have to really know for myself, what is the word saying to me about healing, health and healing. And after many, many hours and weeks and months of studying, I came to the conclusion that it is thoroughly God's will. Everyone he ever came in contact with that he had needed healing got healing. He turned nobody away. So here I am. I've got these painful migraines. I'm in bed a lot. I'm miserable. And I've got this truth, this truth. Remember, I said yesterday, we can know one truth here, but not another truth here, right? In my conscious mind, I knew the truth was that he is all about healing, that I was worthy of healing, that he could heal me, that he would heal me. But my subconscious mind was telling me something else. Now, I didn't know this at the time. This was not something that I was aware of. But this incident is what taught me this. All right. A lot of times we go through things because God is teaching us about his ways. He's teaching us about his love. He's teaching us to expand our expectations. That's what we need to do, expand our expectations. So this one day, I'm lying in bed and I'm crying out to God. And I'm pretty miserable. And I hear God say to me, and this is very important because throughout our lives, we get words from God. We might not recognize it and say, it's God talking to me. They could be just ideas or revelations or intuition, but it's the voice of God connecting with us. And I heard the voice of God say, call a friend who will pray until it's gone. And I thought, who is going to do that? I've been waiting upon healing. I've been looking for healing for years now. How can I ask anybody to do that? But somebody came to mind, and it was a friend who lived around the corner. And so I called her. My husband called her for me. I couldn't call her. But my husband called her, and she came right over. And she wasn't like this big prayer warrior. She wasn't in ministry. She was just a friend who was willing to pray. That's it. And so she came in and she started praying for me. And as she prayed, guess what? I got worse. I got worse. Yes. And now I'm sicker. I'm like crawling on my hands and knees to the bathroom. I can't stand up. I come back after the bathroom and she says, I want you to stand up and I want you to raise your hands and I want you to praise God and I want you to thank God for your healing. And I'm like, I am going to smack you. I can't stand up. Can't you see the pain I'm in? And she insisted. So I stood up and I raised my hands. Are you guys hearing me, by the way? Okay. Thank you, Kim. Yes. I stood up, I'm raising my hands, and all she did was this. She stood and she tapped into another realm and she just went, the love of God, the love of God, the love of God, the love of God. And she just kept doing that over and over and over again. And one of the times that she did it was like an arrow going into my heart, setting me ablaze, lifting the migraine off my head, just flying off my head. And I collapsed on the floor in so much exhaustion. But I was healed. That was in 2002, 20 years ago. And I haven't had a headache since. Not a migraine, but also not a headache. And there was all these other symptoms of stress conditions I had: digestive problems, uterine problems, respiratory problems. They wanted to take my gallbladder out. I had fibroids. You name it, I had it. Okay. I was a stressed out bunny. And when that happened, all those other conditions disappeared too. And quite frankly, for 15 years, I think it was 15 years, I never even went to the doctors. Not once. I am none. And to this day, I have great health. I am on no medications. My blood pressure is great. Everything. And I'm so grateful because I do stand and do believe on healing. My husband had cancer. He stands on healing. He was healed, right? What spiritual release from God's love? Simply his love. It was. Now, here's the lesson that came to me out of it. Okay. I believed in healing, but there was one thing I didn't believe in, and I didn't know I didn't believe in it until this happened. What I didn't believe in was that I was worthy of being healed, miraculously healed. I didn't believe that. Now, I didn't know I didn't believe it, but that's what was revealed to me afterwards. And the reason I say that is because my dad, loved my dad, wonderful man, my dad. My dad loved me and all of us with an undying love. But my dad was not able to do certain things in life to help us, especially financially. And because of that, he would often say, "Good girl, way to go." And he'd be my cheerleader, but he would not do anything to help me. Maybe once or twice in my adult life, but rarely could I depend on my dad to help me. So I imagine that God was like that too. Good girl, way to go. I'm behind you. I love you, but do nothing for me. So I needed this shift in my thinking so I could start to understand that God is a God of action. He actually does things for us. And as my expectation that increased, more and more I was able to manifest things of my heart. I didn't have so many obstacles. And I started to believe with all my heart that I was worthy. Okay, so you can see how sometimes we can have this belief. Our theology could be wrong. And our theology can keep us from actually achieving our heart's desires through the power of love, right? Okay. All right. So today, how to reinforce and solidify. That is the main point of today's lessons. Yesterday, we talked about the 3 steps of transforming your feelings of unworthiness or any other lie. We said step 1, you had to acknowledge that you even have it. You even have these feelings, and you have to acknowledge it with compassion. Acknowledge you struggle with it. Acknowledge it. Write about it. Write to God about it. All right. I totally endorse journaling as a method, as I said yesterday, to increase your intimacy with God. Number two, call the belief that you're not worthy or any other belief that doesn't align with God and who He says you are. Call it a lie. Call it a lie. You have to decide that even though this has been your truth for many, many years, that you've been operating under it, it's actually a lie. And calling it a lie, deciding it, and remember I said put it in a circle with a no smoking diagonal sign and bold red letters over it, say lie. All right? Whatever you have to do to make it more solidified in your mind, and then kiss the lie goodbye. All right? Kiss the lie goodbye. Then declare your desire and intention to be more aware and appreciative of the magnificent creature God made you to be. By the way, at the end of this, if you stick around, I have got a great word for you. Got one this morning that I want to pass on. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. All right, so you're going to have plenty of times to practice this because there's going to be plenty of times things are going to come up and you're going to go, I am worthy. I am so worthy. I am a magnificent creation of God. And then somebody is going to come along and say, let me show you how you're not. All right? Let me show you how you're not. Because they're working out their own stuff. Gotcha? All right? How they treat you does not determine your worth and value. You have to make sure you get that straight. So back in 2016, I've told you that's how I started this whole series off. I had a massive money meltdown. It was a massive money meltdown. Now, for years, I had known that God was my source. For years, I had known that I had His favor. For years, do you remember I wrote a book on it? Everybody know I wrote a book on favor of God? Yes. Have I ever told you you're my favorite? The importance of feeling special. It's actually the word from God, how it changed my life, and it catapulted me into a speaking and retreat career. Okay? So I had known about love and favor, and God was my source, and He was going to work on my behalf, especially when it came to finances. All right. Hey, Toinette, it's good to see you. So, yeah, especially when it came to finances. I had an incident way back in 2004, now 2 years after my migraine was healed. 2 years after I started working on overhauling my mind regarding money. What does God say about money? What does God want from me regarding money and for me? And I realized that God takes pleasure in our prosperity, right? And I started listening to a lot of teachers, reading books on money, because I used to be a financial advisor. And I knew that I had had some skewed ideas about money, and I wanted to be aligned with God. Infinite wisdom, divine love. I wanted to be aligned with God about money. All right. So we were hurting in 2004 when we moved into a brand new house, and it was all that more than I could want. I called it Amen Estates, given by God, protected by angels. All right. I loved it there. But in 2001, just a few months after we moved in, 9/11 happened and it caused my husband's business to tank, right? All of a sudden, I got all this fear, overwhelmed with fear. We're going to lose our house. We're going to end up living in a cardboard box under a bridge. True story. Okay. We never did, but I did believe that in a very real sense. So then in 2004, by then, I'm really starting to think, okay, but that was the catalyst for me to seek out God and what He has to say, what His intention is about money for us. So I heard a preacher. I was very inspired by this because this preacher was talking about how God had said to him regarding money, how much do you want? And we can, God will ask us how much we want. We can tell him how much we want. I mean, I was kind of like a little bit short circuiting there. But I took it in and I got inspired by it. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting, I can remember where I was sitting. And I heard God say, how much do you want? How much do you want, Maryann? I'm like, oh. I knew how much we needed to make up the deficit. So I knew how much we needed because we were running a deficit every month. So I knew how much we needed. And it was like this thought, ask bigger, ask bigger, ask for 3 times what you want. All right. Now, I probably could have done 10, but at the moment, I went for 3 times. Right. And then I heard, go ask Gene and see what he says. And I knew it was because we were supposed to see if we were on the same page. Now, my husband doesn't take care of the finances. He didn't then. And so I don't even know if he knew how much we needed or how much we were running at a deficit. But I just trusted whatever number he comes up with, whatever I number come up with. I don't know what it's going to be. But as it turns out, it was exactly the same amount of money. It's exactly the same amount of money. And guess what? For 18 months after that, that money, that exact number came in every single month, every single month. Okay. So I knew that God was the source. And I had already started a business. I was into my business 5 years already. I was just hitting the 6-figure mark. And that's not easy to do as a coach or a consultant, I discovered. Yeah, it's not easy to do. But I was exhausted. And now here we are in a situation where I can't go out and do what I normally did because I had an idea what you need to do in order to bring in money to create financial income revenues and increase was X, Y, and Z. Well, I couldn't do X, Y, and Z. So now what? I'm screwed. That was the feeling. So the process. Now, I didn't have a process I was following then. And the process might not work for you, but this is the process God took me through. The first thing was I poured my heart out. I got to the point where I stopped trying to carry it inside and trying to figure it out. Instead, I let it all out. I let it all out in screams. I let it all out in sobbing on the floor. I let it out in curse words. All right. I let it out. I just poured out the venom. I did. I went to bed that night totally spent, lost, feeling defeated, feeling hopeless, not having a clue how this was going to work out. But again in the morning, I heard a word. And sometimes these words are so pivotal that they change everything. And this one word, well, it wasn't a word, it was a phrase, get back to love, Maryann. That was the answer. Get back to love. It was the answer to my emotional stability. It was also the answer to my emotional abundance. And then it became the answer to my financial abundance. So when I got up, I recalled all the times where God had met me, where people have helped me, where resources flowed in. And most of them I couldn't even orchestrate. I didn't earn them, I flowed in them. They happened, right? So once I saw that, my faith increased. I was reminded of all the love, activities of love, right? Those became my memorial stones. Those became my memorial stones. Once that happened, I felt like $1,000,000. I've told you that. I didn't have any more money in the bank account than I did before I started, but I felt like $1,000,000. I felt so loved. I felt so well cared for. My heart was bursting with gratitude. From that, the portals of abundance opened and thousands flowed in that day and through the week and for months to come. In fact, the whole time that I was helping Jean heal the cancer. All right. So, what the connection I want you to see is this: um, emotional. You oftentimes get you get a situation. You need a spiritual word, a rhema word, an intuition, a revelation, something that is pivotal. And you've had them in your life, and I want you to start looking for those things. Just could be just a thought in your head, right? But something is working there that's going to pivot you in another direction, help you refocus, help you embrace something that you were rejecting, right? Be on the lookout for those kinds of things. And then Journal the evidence. Your brain needs evidence. That's why I'm telling you this. Your brain needs evidence. Your brain needs a reason to change its mind. It's been going down one pathway for a long time saying, you don't get this. You don't deserve this. You're unworthy. You're not qualified. Don't even try. You're going to be disappointed. Right? Your brain goes down this path. Your brain needs another focus and needs evidence. So go back in your past. Instead of looking at all the ways that you did not get what you wanted, all the ways people spurned you, rejected you, all the ways that that happened, don't do that. You do that enough. Your brain has been trying to reinforce those patterns for years. You have to give it something else to work with, and that's evidence. Evidence. Once you do this, and you keep doing this, and you keep that in the forefront, your brain is going to get rewired. Okay? All right. Let's see. Your brain needs evidence. It's amazing God still loves me after I let him have it. Oh yeah. That's his love is unconditional. You can let him have it. God can God can take it. Gee. He's not gonna hold it against you. He can take it. He's gonna go, okay. It's like when our little kid, he's having a temper tantrum. He doesn't want to go to bed. He doesn't want to do this. He's. With us, whatever it is. The idea of saying, sorry, kid, act like that, you don't get anything. All right? No. Instead, it's like, hey, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Yeah. God got the entire life's worth in anger, the blunt edge of my entire life's worth in anger. Wasn't pretty, but it was beautifully ugly to him, and I'll never forget how he loved me after. That is evidence. God showing you love after you let him have it is evidence of his love. That's what the kinds of things you want to build up. All right. Okay. So in conclusion here, all right, we're not going to, let's see, what is, oh, we might get off a little earlier today. In conclusion, um, I want you to pour your heart out. Attune yourself to hearing a pivotal word or allowing your intuition to speak. Amass the evidence. It is there. The evidence is there. Feel loved and full of heart throbbing gratitude. Accept help, the provision or the miracle. Look at it as a gift, especially for you. Savor it, treasure it. All right? And before I have a meditation for you, I've got a word from the Lord, but there's two things that I wanted to address here. One was, Kim was talking about financial insufficiency. So, Kim, what I would say is using my example that I gave earlier, hear God saying to you, what do you want, Kim? What do you want? How much do you want? Now, he might not say to you, go and ask your husband, all right? And he wasn't saying that to me to go and ask my husband for permission, all right? It was more about asking my husband what he thought and seeing, I needed to see if we were on the same page. That was something for my faith, okay? So God has an answer for you here. And maybe you can look back on your past also. When has God provided financially for you? When have you been in a tough spot and finances came through? All right. Start rebuilding your evidence. Okay. Start rebuilding your evidence that God delights in your prosperity, that God is there to provide for you financially, not just to eke by. Remember, I said I asked for 3 times what was coming in. And because of that, we were able to repair our cars. We were able to take a trip to England to visit our daughter who had moved there. We were able to do things around the house. We had surplus every month. I was able to pay off debt. I was able to save. All right. And I was able to give a lot more. We always were, pretty generous givers in the church. So there's a lot that you can do with it. And so ask God, you know, He's asking you. It's like, I'm not saying, ask God, how much can I have? God is saying, how much do you want? How much do you want? Yeah. Write that number down. Hold it in your heart. And whatever is in the way of that, whatever's in the way of that, do the lie test. Okay. Acknowledge it. Tell God where you are having struggles here, where you're believing that maybe it's not for you. Whatever's coming up for you, journal about that. Okay. And then get into the truth. Thank you that you delight in my prosperity. Thank you that my desires are your desires, right? Make your declaration and then write out your evidence. Hopefully that'll help. Okay. And there's one other incident that I want to talk to you about very briefly. Hang on one second. I got to see if she gave me permission. But she did give me permission to talk about it, but I don't know if I have permission to use her name. Oh, okay. She said I could use her name. So I got a note from Trish. Some of you have seen Trish on here. And Trish, one of her biggest issues and challenges is a relationship with her daughter. And one of the things that she is feeling is that her daughter, she's feeling rejected. In other words, she's feeling rejected. And we don't need to really go into the circumstances, but she's feeling rejected and very sad because it doesn't seem that her daughter wants to be very involved with her about certain things. All right. And her daughter is, I think, 17 years old, right? And she doesn't have time for her mom. She doesn't desire to have more than a surface level relationship. And it makes Trish very sad to the point where she wonders, what am I doing this all for? Okay. What are we doing this all for? Now, some of you have got relationships with people that are close to you where you feel either estranged or you feel like you deserve better in the relationship, which you do, or you feel like you have to be very careful that you're walking on eggshells, you might step on a landmine. Okay. Those kinds of relationships are difficult and they carry a lot of shame. All right, because at the bottom of it all, what's really painful for us is that that person that we want a relationship with doesn't think that we are worthy enough, we're good enough, or maybe we have done too many things in their mind to against them. But whatever it is, they don't want to have a relationship to us with us. And the message, bye, Toinette, the message that we're receiving from that is that we're not desirable, that we're not desirable. And even what's the point? So there's a sense of defeat and futility and lostness. Okay. Honestly, the first thing we have to do is get to the truth. We need to get soothed by God. Let God soothe our hearts. First and foremost, we have to get back to that point of saying, you know what, no matter how anybody else treats me, I am loved. No matter how much somebody rejects me, I'm loved. I'm worthy of love. I qualify for love. And Lord, I come to you today with this need, with this need to feel loved. We can't actually go and work in those relationships, respond in those relationships in a healthy manner when we're feeling this sense of desperation. I remember one time years ago when my my stepson was living with us, and he he knew that I wasn't to blame for his parents' breakup, but I got the brunt of it. And I remember um, not knowing what to do, I was distraught. He lived with us. So every day I had this attitude and behavior toward me. And I was starting to get upset and angry and like not wanting to live with us because who wants that on a regular basis? And I went to a woman's study and I was there um, paying attention to the message and all of that. And something struck me, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. And as I was driving home, all of a sudden I got a picture, a vivid picture of what my two stepkids looked like to God. In the eyes of God, they were precious. In the eyes of God, He had so much compassion. It was dripping with compassion. And my heart just exploded with compassion for them as I felt what He felt about them. And He was like, don't you worry about you. I got you. You just love them. Changed everything. And for years and years to come, you know, and I'll tell you, that stepson on my 70th birthday gave me this card that just made me sob, talking about remembering those days and talking about how much he loves me, how much he values me, how his life has been enriched because I have been in it. And that's not the first time he's ever said it. It was just kind of memorialized in a beautiful card. So, you know, we have to see with the eyes of God, but we can't if we're always feeling very, very embittered and resentful and devoid of love. So that is that is my advice to you, Trish. All right. I'm not sure who else needed that, but I have a number of clients. We go to work on their businesses. We go to work on their finances. We go to increase their income and their impact. And guess what we find? They have those wounds in their heart where they have estranged relationships with children that they desperately want to reconnect with. It's a hole in their heart, right? This is very common. But I've seen God over and over and over again restore the relationship, heal it, all through the power of love. But they have to receive it first, right? The parent has to receive it first. Yes. All right. Yeah, it is hard not to take it personally. That's why you got to go to God. You got to go to God. You got to receive His love. You got to receive His love. And not just intellectually, but stay in that place of receiving His love until you start to feel a shift. Until you start to feel gratitude, compassion, whatever it is you need, you can get it. You can get it by journaling, by contemplation, by taking 10 minutes and just freeing yourself from everything and stopping, put your hand on your heart, do some breathing, and say, Lord, I am here. Fill me. Fill me with your love. God is very willing to do that for you. All right. We're going to do a little meditation here before we close up for today. Put your hand on your heart, please. Let's breathe. I have some words that God wants you to take in. All right. All right. Ready? Receive. You are not defective. There is nothing defective about you. What you consider flaws are precious, defining uniqueness. You are my crowning jewel of achievement. Bask in that today. Treasure it. Stop wasting your time trying to measure up. You already exceed the standard. Why would I make something flawed and defective? You are magnificent, my magnificent masterpiece, And I am so proud of who I made you to be. To be proud is not haughty, but humility, as it shows you trust me with your identity. Thank you. Every time you agree with me and see yourself as a glorious masterpiece, hear me say to you, thank you. I love you. You are more than worthy. You are more than worthy. You are not defective. You are his crowning achievement. All right, peeps. Hope this is helping you expand, feel better about who you are, feel better about your relationship with the Lord, feel better about your relationship with others. And eventually, we're going to really be talking, I think we'll have time, but about your relationship with money. Very important here. Yes, Kim, it does hinge on love. Oh, Amanda, I'm glad you feel lighter. Kim says so many key words in there, every sentence. Masterpiece, humility, thank you. If you ever think about God saying thank you to you, yeah. All right, lovies. See you tomorrow. Oh, and one more thing. If you have something that you want to share with me, you can message me. Like if you don't really want it to be a part of the broadcast, all right, then you can message me and I will try to answer. Okay? All right. Love you. Bye bye.